I only hope that we don't lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse, Walt Disney. I'm sure that we've all heard this quote before, and I'm sure there might even be some Disney fans in the audience. But what do we really know about Walt Disney, besides the fact that he made the happiest place on earth? By the end of my speech, you will learn about Walter Eliza Disney. You will learn how he went from being a normal person to a man with a dream. Today I want to inform you about Disney's childhood, his career, and where he ended up. By the end of my speech, you will learn that you can make your way from the bottom of the ladder to the top if you believe in yourself and your dream. Walter Eliza Disney was born on December 5, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois to Eliza and Flora Disney. Walter, or Walt, is one of 5 children. 4 boys, Herbert, Raymond, Roy, and of course himself, Walter, and 1 girl, Ruth. When he was 5 years old, Eliza Disney, his father, moved them to Mercilin, Missouri to live and work on a farm. They only lived there for about 3 years though, because when Mr. Disney got sick, they ended up having to sell the farm and move. Walt's childhood consisted of a lot of moving around, as you can tell. The family finally settled down in Kansas City, Kansas, and Walt graduated in June of 1917 from Benton High School. Now that I've told you about the Disney family and how Walt grew up, let's see what his career was. Walt starts looking for a job, and his first job ended up being in the American Ambulance Corps in France. Walt lied about his age to do this job. He did it through 1918 and 1919. After that, he moved back to the United States and got a job at a commercial art studio. This was when Walt discovered his love of drawing and decided to pursue it as a career. In July of 1923, after moving around from many different studios, Walt succumbs to bankruptcy. He decides to move to Hollywood with his brother Roy and his plans to become a director. Once he moves to Hollywood, Roy and Walt sign a contract with M.J. Winkler. According to JustDisney.com, he was a New York cartoon distributor. This is good luck for the brothers, so they rent a room and hire 2 girls to help them. Roy was the cameraman, Walt drew the animations, and the girls inked and painted the celluloids. Then they hired an animator by the name of Roland Hamilton and gave their business a name of Disney Bros Studio. Life is going good so far for the Disney brothers, and in 1924 their first Alice comedy went to the theater, and Walt also hired more people for his business. By hiring more people, Walt and his brother Roy both met their wives. So in April of 1925, Roy marries Edna, and in July the same year, Walt marries Lillian. In February, 1 year later, Walt renames the studio Walt Disney Studio, according to the book Remembering Walt, Favorite Memories of Walt Disney. On a train ride in 1928, Walt drew the image of a mouse. Yes, this is the mouse that started it all. So in 1928, Mickey Mouse is born. Mickey Mouse is more popularly known as Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie opened up in the Cullen Theater in New York in November of 1928. It was the first animated cartoon with sound. Now that you see how Walt created the mouse and how long it took him to think of the idea, let's see how that turned out. Minnie Mouse and Pluto were also born with Mickey Mouse in 1928, and 2 years after that, Columbia signs with Disney. And a year after that, Goofy is introduced to us. In December of 1933, Walt and Lillian have their first child, Diane Marie Disney. And then in 1934, Donald Duck is born. A couple years after that, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs hits its premiere opening and makes a gross income of $8 million and wins an Academy Award. Life is going well for the Disney family until November 26, 1938, when Walt's mother Flora dies. So now let's fast forward many years to 1950 when Cinderella is released, becoming the first hit for Disney since Snow White, according to the book Remembering Walt, Favorite Memories of Walt Disney. 1953 is when Walt thought of the idea for an amusement park. According to the book Designing Disney's Parks, Walt visited fairs, carnivals, and circuses to see the attractions and what kind of people that were there. ABC would become, according to JustDisney.com, 35% owner of Disneyland. And on July 17, 1955, Disneyland opens. And by 1961, with all their profits, they paid off their loans and their debts. Many years later, Mary Poppins premieres at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood and is nominated for 13 Academy Awards. In September of 1964, President Johnson awards Walt Disney with the Medal of Freedom at the White House. This is the nation's highest civil honor. Rory goes to Florida on behalf of Walt's wishes and purchases what is now Disney World. Walt dies on December 15, 1966 from acute circulatory collapse. Now that you see how Disneyland was created and how Walt thought of Disney World, I'll move on to my conclusion. Walt Disney started at the bottom of the ladder and worked his way to the top. He believed in himself and his dream. Even though he moved around a lot as a child, he never stopped learning wherever he went. He became a cartoon artist for a small business, and that propelled his dream. Walt most definitely had to work for it, but ended up creating what we call the happiest place on earth. Thank you.